Welcome to Nice and Blunt. It is what day is it? It's Monday, June 19th at 10 p.m. I'm going to do a late night edition for this live stream. But let's mute that. Don't know if you can hear it, but it's the playback. Anyways, happy to be here, very excited and looking forward to it. So we're going to hop into a draft here. I'm not going to do a $25 one. I'm just going to do a $3 one, 12-person draft here on Underdog. If you're interested in joining me, it looks like there are 5 spots left. This may take some time, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. There is something I do want to talk about, though, before we get this draft started. And, I actually forgot to bring it in. Maybe I can bring it up right now. But it's the Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, are poised to be excellent. Excellent this season. Where is it? Dang, that's a bummer. I planned to bring it in, but I forgot to upload it. Anyways, let's just take a look at the Jaguars real quick while we're waiting for this draft to start. They closed last season on a 7-2 run to lock up that playoff spot and win the division. They started off 2-6, and then they won against Las Vegas. They beat Baltimore after the bye. They lost to Detroit, but then they rattled off 5 straight wins to claim that playoff spot with a 9-8 record. They beat Tennessee, Dallas, the Jets, Houston, and Tennessee. We all know about that Chargers victory in the playoffs, followed by that loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. But look at these point totals in these games. 17, but then 28, 40, 36, 40, 19, 31, 20, 31 in that victory over the Chargers, and then 20 in their ultimate playoff loss to the Chiefs. So when this team was winning, they were really scoring a lot of points, and oh my God, I'm really excited about their schedule this season. It looks like this draft board is full, so let's just take a look at our spot. We have pick 10. We have a minute, so let me just finish up this quick wrap up on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's just take a look at their schedule this season, because I have a feeling they're going to be really, really good. I think they can push for that number 1 seed in the AFC, because they're going to start off at the Colts. That's a W. I'll give them an L versus Kansas City, but I think they're going to win 5 straight here versus Houston, automatic dub. Then they face Atlanta in London. That is definitely helpful to them. They're the only team that kind of has a fan base legitimately in London. Then they stay in London against Buffalo. That's a huge advantage week 5. I think they'll win that one as well. Then they'll beat the Colts again. I think they'll beat Derek Carr and the Saints in week 7. I think they'll lose in week 8, but that's only 2 losses before the week 9 bye. I think they will lose to San Francisco, but the only other game I think they lose is that Tennessee game at the end of the season. That's probably not going to matter. I think they're also going to win a ton of games in the second half here. And my prediction for the Jaguars is 13-4. I think they're actually going to be amazing, and they're either the number 1 seed in the AFC or the number 2, depending on how Kansas City does. I think the Chiefs will probably finish 13-4, 14-3 themselves, and lock up that 1 spot. But I am a firm believer that the Jags are going to be legit this season, and I think they're going to be the 2 seed at worst in the AFC with 13 wins on the year. If that's right, then their fantasy players are going to be league winners, and I want them on my team. I want to stack, so we're going to hope and pray that this works out. It's really dependent on how the 3rd and 5th rounds go, but ideally, we will be getting Calvin Ridley in round 3. We are probably going to reach on him, but we're going to take Christian Kirk in round 4, and then we're going to pair that up with Trevor Lawrence in round 5, and hopefully get our league-winning stack. But here we are in the first round at pick 10, and I am not going to take Bijan as much as I want to take him. I believe CeeDee Lamb is a better pick in this 3 wide receiver format here on Underdog. It really starts to dry up as we move through the draft, and having that anchor at the position, an elite guy that we know is finishing top 10, is just so important, so valuable. I've passed on him for Bijan. I've tried it out, and I always regret it. I will go CeeDee Lamb, and maybe we'll get Davante Adams falling back to us at pick 15. I don't think he's a player you want to let fall deep into the second round. We do not get Adams. He goes at number 13. That's fine. That's not something I'm upset about. Knowing that we're planning to go Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk in round 3 and 4, I think it behooves us to take an elite talent at running back. And normally I don't take him, but I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor just for the sake of increasing my exposure. I think if you are going to be drafting a lot on Underdog, if you have a lot of teams, I think it's kind of a risky proposition to only go with the same players over and over. So just from a strategy perspective of my own, I normally prefer Nick Chubb. I normally take Saquon over Jonathan Taylor, but I have been passing on him so much that I kind of want to just change course. And we need a strong running back in this team, especially if we're going with wide receiver, quarterback in the next 3 rounds. We want to have a guy we can trust. And if Taylor does bounce back, I'm not completely convinced it happens. I'd much rather get him in the late second, maybe even the 3rd round, but that's just not the case. He's not falling that late. You can never get Jonathan Taylor at a great value. I'm just going to take him here at the top of round 2 and at least shore up a player I do have ranked inside the top 10 at the running back position. I trust Nick Chubb more. He's a safer player. Saquon also, I think, is a little more talented. But it's really just a question of, will the quarterback situation in Indianapolis hinder him again? Like last year, that was the big problem with the Colts. They were just so bad as an offense. They couldn't put points on the board. And Jonathan Taylor just kept coming off the field. He only scored 4 touchdowns last season in 11 games. That's something we need to drastically increase if he's going to repeat. If he's going to return second round draft capital. Hopefully that is the case. I drafted him 2 years ago. I was very happy to have him on my team a couple seasons ago, but last year I moved off of him, and that was the wise decision. I might be a little bit too afraid to believe in him. His talents, I mean, it's not like it went away, but I worry that a rushing quarterback, Anthony Richardson, is just going to take too many checkdowns away from him. It is a new coaching staff. There are some variables that are just a little bit difficult to fully predict and fully endorse. Given his bad season last year, Jonathan Taylor was not a top 15 running back on a per-game basis. His injury also really derailed his season, and there are some big red flags when it comes to that offense's capability to score touchdowns and put up real-life points. Touchdowns are very important at the running back position. He scored 20-plus 2 years ago. That was the reason why he was so valuable. In addition to 5.5 yards per carry, he had like 2,000 yards from scrimmage, but those 20-plus touchdowns were really what put him over the top as a league winner 2 years ago. So let's hope it works out. I can't say I'm like convinced it will, but for the sake of widening my exposure, I'm comfortable grabbing Taylor in the second round. Normally, I'd just rather have him late second round rather than early second round. But maybe we do not get Calvin Ridley. It's possible we get sniped here. It's possible our plan does not work out. But fingers crossed that Team 9 here does not take the player at the top of ADP. If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. But it's very interesting to plan. So it looks like it's not going to happen. We're not going to get Calvin Ridley. That's a bit of a bummer in terms of the plan for this. But again, it's not the end of the world. It could be a lot worse. I don't love Debo here. In fact, I actually think I prefer Amari Cooper from a floor standpoint. Like, Cooper has a lot of touchdown production the last 2 years, whereas Debo did fall off a cliff last season. Very, very different stats for Debo. last year, like from 1,400 yards down to 632. And it's not like the target share was that much different. He missed a lot of time last year. Debo was not the same player. Brandon Ayuk was actually just as valuable on a per game basis as Debo Samuel was. So he does have some big spike week potential, but I think from a team build standpoint, I prefer Amari Cooper as your wide receiver 2. I'd love Debo if he was available in the mid third round. I think Brandon Ayuk is actually going a little too late. I think the two of them should actually be a lot closer in the ADP. But that's my preference. I prefer Amari Cooper over Debo Samuel. However, if DeAndre Hopkins does sign in Cleveland, that would really shake things up. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a New England Patriot this season. And I don't think this pick 38 ADP is actually going to pay off either. So not too excited to take him. We could go with running back. I prefer Jahmyr Gibbs over Etienne here. But maybe we still get the stack if I am correct about the Jaguars. Then I think Christian Kirk is absolutely worth an early 4th round pick. I don't think it's that crazy. And because I mentioned it, I'm just going to do it. Maybe we just get Evan Ingram instead of Calvin Ridley as part of our stack. But I don't think it's crazy to reach on Christian Kirk. The difference between him and Christian Watson, I don't think is that insane. Christian Kirk put up top 15 numbers last year at the wide receiver spot, and he could absolutely do it again. If Calvin Ridley busts, if he's not going to live up to the potential that people have given him as a 3rd round pick, then the guy you would want in Jacksonville would be Christian Kirk. I'd rely on him way, way more from a floor standpoint. I don't think the value between the two of them is that crazy, and I am comfortable with his value. So let's just take a look at the draft. You always want to watch the board, see how it falls, what's going to happen. But yeah, I got a good feeling about the Jaguars in general, and there's no chance we're going to get Christian Kirk falling back to us at pick 58. He goes in the 4-5 turn, and I don't think it's crazy to reach on him at pick 39, given Ridley is going at 33, especially if that pick busts. Christian Kirk's going to be valuable. But Angus, love to see you in the chat here. Trevor Lawrence, under or over 26.5 touchdowns. I am pounding the over. I firmly believe in Trevor Lawrence this season. And honestly, I'm starting to think he's more valuable than Justin Herbert. I really do. It feels almost like sacrilege, almost like egregious to say that. But Herbert threw a lot of interceptions last year, and while I do understand that Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in that playoff game against the Chargers, he threw 4 touchdowns in the second half, and they won the game. I think Trevor Lawrence is actually a better player than Justin Herbert. And when you put it in context, he's in year 2 in the same system with his head coach. Meanwhile, Herbert is now in year 1 in the Kellen Moore offense. And Herbert could easily lose his weapons to injury. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams missed 11 combined games last season. That could easily happen again. The rookie Quentin Johnson, I think, is a little bit more of a project, a long-term development type of player than people are giving him credit for. I think Josh Palmer is a little bit more reliable, actually, than Quentin Johnston. Not as talented, don't get me wrong there. But I think if things go sour, maybe Eckler has just a hamstring injury or something that makes him miss a few games, I would be very worried about the Chargers collapsing and definitely looking a lot more like last season than they did a couple years ago where Herbert was a top 3 quarterback. So I do worry about him a little bit, and I think Trevor Lawrence is just a little bit safer. I mean, he was elite even going back to high school, but especially in college he was amazing. And I think he's a safer floor play for sure. And if the ceiling hits, he could absolutely be amazing. But in terms of passing touchdowns, yeah, I definitely think he's going over 27. I think he's going to throw for 35. I don't see that as crazy at all. Maybe Calvin Ridley doesn't work out, but even if he doesn't, he was making Zay Jones look like a top 20 receiver. Zay Jones was giving you really good games at the end of the season. Evan Ingram had an elite stretch, and Christian Kirk for the first 10 weeks of the season was a top 12, top 15 wide receiver. So I trust them a lot. Your question, though, would I rather have Fields or Lawrence? Given the rushing value, I think Fields is definitely a player I'd rather draft first, but that comes with injury concerns. That definitely has a boom-bust appreciation to it, and I can't say I trust the floor with Justin Fields, but because you're going to get some 35, 40-point games with Fields and those massive rushing games, I think in best ball I prefer Justin Fields. But it's very close. I don't have them that far apart. I think they're kind of in the same tier. And I told you he's in the thumbnail. I'm trying to get this stack. We're gonna do it. And instead of Ridley, we're gonna go with Evan Ingram and maybe Zay Jones a little bit later. We're gonna target Jacksonville Jaguars in this draft. And like I mentioned at the top, I think they're gonna win 13 games. I think they're gonna be an elite team in the AFC and really give you some good fantasy points. But A+, shout out to you. Appreciate the advice last season. Thank you, my man. Glad I could help you and appreciate you joining us here in the live stream. But Angus, plus you need to hope that the Bears improve like the Jags already have. Yes, that's a very legit point. I've been looking over the Bears schedule, and I kind of think they might actually be a playoff team. If 9 wins gets you to the playoffs in the NFC, that is definitely a possibility with the Bears. I wouldn't rule it out completely. And even if that does happen, that's a massive, massive leap. And I can't say I'm as confident that they're going to be as good as the Jags. That's definitely not the case. But we're on the clock here. We have a pick to make, and the beauty of having an anchor hero running back is you can pound other positions, and I think George Kittle in round 6 is absolutely a pick you do not want to pass up on. He could be tight end 1 this season, even if he puts up the same stats as last year. Travis Kelce's 34. Travis Kelce could easily go down. And I think he does offer a little bit of risk. If that does happen, it's not like I want it to happen. I'm just giving you the real facts here. It is possible that Travis Kelce does go down with injury. If that happens, I trust George Kittle a little bit more than I trust Mark Andrews. Andrews had some bad games last year where he wasn't even a top 10 tight end. Now they get Odell, they get Zay Flowers, and an offense that wants to pivot more to the passing game. I think they're going to spread it around a little bit. And I do kind of worry that Andrews is a little touchdown dependent in terms of his elite ceiling. There is absolutely some risk there. And then TJ Hawkinson is more of a check down floor play. I actually trust George Kittle just as much as I trust Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. And as you're asking it, Angus, who is my tight end 3? It's actually Mark Andrews. My tight end 2 is George Kittle. I go Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert. Those are my top 5. Kyle Pitts is barely at 6. I kind of want to put him at 7. I have Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts right there neck and neck. And to be completely honest with you, I've been more of a fan of Waller overall in his career. I kind of prefer Waller over Pitts straight up. But my tight end 2 is George Kittle. My tight end 3 is Mark Andrews. And my tight end 4 is TJ Hawkinson. I think Kittle is a home run hit in round 6. While he does carry a bit of injury concern, he has gotten injured in his career. When you look at his stats with Brock Purdy specifically, holy shit, man. George Kittle was the belle of the ball, the apple of Brock Purdy's eye. Purdy could not throw the ball away from George Kittle. I believe it was week 11 or so when Purdy took over. I believe that was the game against Arizona when they started putting up 30 points plus per game. Look at these stats for George Kittle. 4 for 84 and 2 touchdowns. 3 for 26, 2 for 22, 4 for 23. I understand, not amazing. But then we hit the fantasy playoffs, and that ceiling came back. 4 for 93, 2 touchdowns. 6 for 120, 2 touchdowns. 4 for 23 and a touchdown. 4 for 29, 2 touchdowns. In the playoffs, he also had really good stats. But these multiple touchdown games in best ball, if they can repeat, that's the elite ceiling. That's why I see George Kittle as tight end 2. I think on a talent point perspective, him and Travis Kelce have been at the top for quite some time, and it's just a matter of, do those touchdowns hit or not? If they don't, then Kittle won't be tight end 2. But even if he gets like half of what he had last season with 11 total, Kittle's absolutely returning the value of this 6th round ADP, and he could easily be more valuable than Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson, who are going 2 full rounds earlier. Definitely prefer George Kittle. But Angus, you're pumped for Freiermuth and even Kmet if they up the red zone targets. I love Freiermuth. I am a little concerned about Cole Kmet with a healthy Darnell Mooney and DJ Moore coming into the fold, and Chase Claypool usually commanding some red zone targets. But Fantasy Dog, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, those stats are phenomenal. Those are league-winning stats, my friend. George Kittle, maybe I'm willing to pass on him at the 5th round turn, but if he comes back around to you in round 6 and you already have 3 wide receivers like I do in this build, absolutely pound George Kittle. Must draft, in my opinion. Can't go wrong. And it also opens you up for the Brock Purdy stack, which is super cheap. Brock Purdy's going pick 185. I can literally ignore the quarterback position forever and take Brock Purdy in round like 16, 17, have our 2 quarterbacks, and be set with our quarterback position. So that's a stack I really love. But given where we are, round 7, we need to remember the wide receiver value always dries up quickly. We could possibly go with the Deshaun Watson stack, but we already have Trevor Lawrence. That's a little bit overkill, in my opinion. We could reach on Evan Ingram, but I've seen him fall past pick 100 many times. I think because we only have 1 running back, I think it's worth grabbing 2 of them at this turn and coming at around 8 with 3 running backs. That would be very solid for this build. So I'm going to take my favorite in this range. I'm going to go with David Montgomery. I think a player that could absolutely finish as a top 20 running back. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is not all he's chalked up to be, but at the very least, Montgomery's going to have that Jamal Williams role, especially on the goal line. You know he's getting some touches, and I posted this. I've mentioned it many times. I even shared the interview in the community tab. You can check that out on my page. The Dan Campbell interview on the Rich Eisen show before the draft was just nothing but rave reviews whenever Dave Montgomery was mentioned in that interview. Dan Campbell loves Dave Montgomery. He's been tired of losing to him back from when he was an assistant coach with the Saints before he got hired by the Lions. So I absolutely believe Dan Campbell when he says how much he trusts and believes in Dave Montgomery, and I think he's a smash pick here. But we mentioned we're going to go with 2 of them here. The value is just hard to pass. You can't get similar type of players later on. So I'm going to go with James Conner, a guy I think is definitely going to finish top 25. He scored 26 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, and there's very little competition for touches in this backfield. Like, it's just him and Keontae Ingram, so you know he's getting a lion's share of work. And although this team kind of sucks, last year he was getting 20-plus touches a game in his final, when he came back from injury. I've mentioned this in a previous video. We've talked about James Conner in the past, but let me remind you the stats that make James Conner look so valuable as a fantasy option. He had an injury, but once he came back, He only played 45 snaps, 71%. His first game back, nothing special, but starting in week 10, holy shit, 21 carries, 14 carries, 25 carries, 15, 16, 15, 16. But then 3 targets, 5 targets, 3 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets, 8 targets, 3 targets, a touchdown in literally every single one of these games, with the exception of week 17 for James Conner starting in week 10. If you're getting 20 touches per game from James Conner again this season, he is absolutely paying off. This 8th round ADP of running back, I want to say, where do we take him? We took him running back 28 off the board. You're telling me James Conner needs to be running back 28 in order to pay off this value? I absolutely believe that's going to happen. But let's just check the chat real quick. Angus, plus now you only need one more tight end. Yes, absolutely true. Beautiful part of this build. We don't need to hammer tight end too much, especially later on. That does help us a lot. But also, you think Kittle has 3 of the top 10 best tight end performances in a single game since 1980 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, we were looking at those stats real quick. Those multi-touchdown games, absolutely elite. There's very little concern with Kittle from a ceiling perspective. It's just a matter of, does he stay healthy? Does he stay on the field? Because as long as that's the case, he's going to put up big numbers. But Fantasy Dog, you got a lot of Montgomery, 39 puppy 2s and 1 Best Ball Mania. Damn, you are drafting a lot of teams. I only went with 16 puppy 2s. I'll be honest with you, especially early on in the off season, not fully sure who might get hurt in training camp. The running back position also, with all those free agents, is just so up in the air. I want to be doing this, but I don't want to throw too much of my money away. But 39, good for you, man. good for you. I'm happy that people who love fantasy football are here on the channel watching with me. So kudos to you, my friend. Best of luck. I hope you take home some money in these underdog drafts. But Madison or James Conner? Straight up, I definitely prefer Madison. I think Madison would be a top 15 running back this season if he stays healthy. If he takes on that full Dalvin Cook role, I think he would be top 15 for sure, as long as Dwayne McBride and Ty Chandler don't eat into his volume too much. But in terms of like value, if you're telling me I can only have one, I'd rather have James Conner in round 8 than grab Alexander Madison in round 5 at like pick 60. I think Madison is worth that pick, but if you're telling me I can get Lawrence and Kittle instead of Madison and grab Conner 3 rounds later, I can't talk. My voice is weird right now, but the combination of Montgomery and James Conner 20 picks after Madison, I think is better value. But just to be clear, straight up, I do prefer Alexander Madison. Straight up, definitely more valuable player at the running back spot. Straight up in terms of value. But also, are we doing a listener league again this year? I'd like to. I want to. We're getting a few more people interested. If you are interested in joining the subscriber league, you can email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com, subject line league, to lock up your spot. There's nothing else. I just need to be able to contact you. So as long as I have that email address to correspond and you let me know you're interested, you are in, my friend. But yeah, it looks like we're all going to be set for next year, especially if most of the people from last year want to re-up. It looks like we may even get 12 teams this year. Last year we only had 10. I think we'll at least have 12 in this year's subscriber league. So again, if you're interested, email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com to lock up that spot. But here we are at the turn. Evan Ingram did not fall to us, but we have George Kittle. We do not need the stack. Not a problem at all. And if there's one position that's starting to look a little dry, it would be the wide receiver position. We have 3 running backs already. 3 I feel confident in, so I'm not going to take a running back. We have a tight end I feel very confident in, so while I do like the value on Njoku, I do think Freiermuth is worth because I'm not going to take him. I'm going to go with Allen Lazard. I think Lazard is a safety blanket for Rodgers, and that chemistry that's just so well established is not going to go anywhere. He is a monster in the red zone. Allen Lazard is 6'4", if not 6'5". Let's pull up his player profiler real quick. You spell it with an E? Yeah, Allen with an E. While that's loading, we'll get back and make sure we don't time out here. I apologize for the audio. I see it might be tricky. I have yet to replace this cable. I really need to do it. I'm very sorry. It seems like it only happens for like 10-15 seconds at most, so hopefully it sorts itself out. But I do apologize again. I'm going to write it down. I need to get this sorted out. But okay, here we are in round 10, and we need receiver. That's not a good spot to be in, but I'm going to highlight a player that I've realized I think could be a league winner. I love Darnell Mooney. I'm completely honest with you. I think this ADP is absolutely worth reaching on. I could be wrong, but he's a player I've believed in for multiple years. Last year he got hurt, and the offense was just terrible, especially from a passing perspective. I think Mooney will have a bounce-back season. But let me just remind you of what Darnell Mooney can do, because if we look back 2 years when, Justin Fields was a rookie and Allen Robinson was there, Mooney was the 2. And I think that's the role that really serves him the best. I think he's actually built to be a number 2 receiver, not a number 1. But we're not looking at 2022. We want to look at 2021. That's the year for Darnell Mooney, especially in the second half of the season. Remember, these are games with Justin Fields. 16 targets, 5 for 121 and a touchdown. 8 targets, 5 for 123, 5 for 27, 1 for 19, whatever. But then 5 for 63, 5 for 75, 13 targets, 7 for 69 and a touchdown. And then the last game of the season, 16, 12, and 126. I understand maybe I'm a little too optimistic to expect that to repeat, but that's not what I'm expecting. I don't see this type of upside, but I see good production. I see 6+ targets a game, maybe 7 or 8, and a lot of those are going to be deeper targets. With DJ Moore on the field, he's going to have a lot less pressure and things are going to open up. Maybe I am wrong, but I view Darnell Mooney in the same exact tier as Courtland Sutton, who's going at pick 96. I think Juju is also in the same tier. Same with Allen Lazard. These are wide receiver 2s at the end of the day who you're not really like convinced are going to give you like elite numbers. However, I don't think that DJ Moore, who's going pick 43 in this draft, is really worth that ADP. You're telling me the gap between DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney is 6 rounds? There is absolutely a scenario where DJ Moore does not pay off and Darnell Mooney is a lot more valuable than his ADP would give him credit for. I'm not expecting a league-winning season from Darnell Mooney, but as our wide receiver 5 in the 10th round, I think it's very difficult to get a player like him moving forward. And it's possible I may have lost some of you just by uttering his name. It's not like drafting a Bears receiver is something that like you're excited for, but I don't fully buy the hype on DJ Moore. I think he's going to revert to his career-long stats. Last year was a bit of a fluke. While for some reason he only put up 940 yards, he really fell off in terms of yards. He put up 7 touchdowns last season. That really saved his fantasy value. But before that, he would max out at 4 touchdowns per season. I expect that to be happening again. And that, I think, is the reason why I'm starting to believe in Darnell Mooney. But the main reason I wanted to take him and point him out was I think he is someone that if you really, really need receiver here, might be worth a bit of a reach if you know you're not going to get him coming back to you, because he's not going to be available at pick 130. And I think you could legitimately make an argument that he's worth a top 100 overall pick. So maybe you disagree with me. Let me know if you do. I'm sure some of you will. But I don't hate this pick at all. I think Darnell Mooney is actually someone that's really valuable if you ignore the receiver position for a while. But I do realize that we could have went with Zay Jones. I see your comment, Angus. Zay is right there. I was willing to take the shot that maybe Zay Jones falls back to us at pick 130. It didn't happen. So that's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. We at least have our Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence stack. But my thoughts on Geno Smith. Geno should be okay, especially with drafting JSN. I think he's going to be more of an effective passer, definitely some high upside. I don't think he's going to be top 10 like he was last season, but I do think he's top 12. I think he's absolutely worth the ADP that he's going here. Like, round 10 is the sweet spot for quarterbacks. If you get your quarterback 1 in round 10, then I think you are at the worst getting like the floor of that player. There's very limited bust potential with Geno, but I just, at the end of the day, don't believe that he's going to be like a league winner. I think the reason they drafted Zach Charbonnet in round 2 is because they want to take a little bit more off of his plate, and he only has one season in his like 11-year career that's successful. While it was last year, it could easily have been a fluke. I don't fully trust him. I'd rather go with Jared Goff, to be honest with you. I think Aaron Rodgers is also a little more valuable. But especially in this range, you get much more rushing upside than Kirk Cousins. I prefer Geno over Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and Daniel Jones for sure. But we are on the clock. We do need to make a pick here. Running back has really dried up, but I love Tank Bigsby, to be completely honest with you. That is also a stack with our Trevor Lawrence selection. And there's no one that I'm like worried about getting sniped. Running back, I think, is more of a need for this roster. So I'm going to go Tank Bigsby, and especially if Travis Etienne goes down, we have an excellent stack, possibly a league winner here at pick 130. Bit of a reach on him, but it does correlate. And running back has been definitely a position of need, drying up very quickly. So don't want to get sniped on Tank Bigsby. I'm happy to take him in, what is this, the 11th round? I think it's fine. But yeah, most of the players that were available to us are still available. And is an interesting spot. Interesting for sure. I'm tempted to go wide receiver here. I think if Jonathan Mingo's available, he's very interesting. He could be this year's Christian Watson. Whew, Van Jefferson at pick 134. I am really glad that I've been pounding Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson is one of my most drafted players. I've got him like in 30% almost. But I've been getting him at like pick 150, 170. I've been taking him for a long time. And if he's going to creep up to the 12th round, I've been getting great value on Van Jefferson. But we're going to go Jonathan Mingo. Absolutely a player that could blow up, especially in the second half of the season. I have high expectations for the Carolina Panthers post their bye. But Fantasy Dog, you love Bigsby as well. Jacksonville doesn't like Etienne between the tackles and his vision. Yeah, I also, speaking of the Rich Eisen show, I listened to the interview with Doug Peterson. He is definitely talking like someone that wants to pivot to a committee. And Tank Bigsby is a excellent talent. Tank Bigsby's really, really fucking good. He's also great in the receiving game. Last year, 30 receptions. The year prior, as a sophomore, 21. As long as a running back in college catches at least 20 receptions in a season, then that's kind of like the threshold to know if they can really turn up. But he's also great on the goal line. 10 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years for him at Auburn. And he is a player I'm very, very excited in. I think he's really going to mess up Travis Etienne's value. Oh, interesting. Alan Lazard is actually 6'3". I thought he was 6'5". But let's pull up Tank Bigsby real quick, just to take a look at his stats, because especially these rookies, like, hard to fully gauge exactly what they'll be. But some of these metrics do help you. He's 6 foot tall, 210 pounds, so pretty built. Definitely not a concern there in terms of workload, but he's going to turn 22 by the time the season starts. He runs a 4.5 40. Not amazing speed, not amazing burst, but his comp is Damian Harris. And that is definitely a player you can trust on the goal line. His career stats have been really good. I see your comment, Fantasy Dog. 33% exposure. Yikes. Yeah, I've been pushing it on Van Jefferson. It's probably trickled down to like 25 at this point. I wrote it down, but yeah, I've been hitting the Van Jefferson stock a little bit heavy, but that's when it was like round, like pick 170. Like I was taking him like almost every freaking draft when he was like pick 170 going in round 15. Like at that point, it's freaking no risk involved, but I would not be reaching on him in round 12 like Team 11 just did, knowing I have that much exposure to him. I've been moving off of him a lot, given I've really overdrafted him. Definitely overweight on Van Jefferson. But when he's your wide receiver 7, your wide receiver 6, like, there's nothing but upside at that point, especially if Matthew Stafford puts up a full season. But yes, I agree. Yikes is fair. Yikes is a very reasonable reaction to Van Jefferson at 33%. 33% is higher than it actually is, though. It may have embellished it just a little bit. Let's let's find out what the real number is. Let's see what it is. Okay, I've drafted 72 teams, and my exposure to Van Jefferson, 27.5, 19 shares of him. Oh wait, let's refresh it because it's only showing 69. 26% is the official number on Van Jefferson. 26.4%. So a little bit better, but not something to be super proud of. Hit it went a little overboard with Van Jefferson, but I'm happy to see him climbing in the ADP, knowing that I got excellent value on him in like the 17th, 15th round. That's definitely comforting to know, but yeah, that's a lot. Anyways, I'm gonna take a hit. If you have any weed, smoke it if you got it. Always nice to relax, but who are we going to be looking at with our next pick? Let's plan accordingly. We have the same build as Team 11, so we might be considering our second quarterback here, but I think I'm probably going to pass. I'm going to try and get really good value coming back around at pick like 178 maybe. We could also take our second tight end. Neither of these teams at the turn have their second, but we might favor wide receiver because Team 12 only has 5, and they could easily double up. So if there's a receiver we really like here that we want, we will consider receiver for sure. But I might be going tight end. I love Irv Smith in this range. In the similar vein of Van Jefferson, I also love Tyler Higbee. I think there's such a small target tree over there in the Rams offense that Higbee and Van Jefferson going super late are going to see a lot of targets. Definitely some valuable players. Higbee had a really good season last year, 108 targets, and he missed time. He had an injury that kept him out for at least like 3-4 games. Higbee should put up good numbers yet again. So I like Higbee. He goes off the board. We get sniped. And we're probably going to get sniped on Irv Smith here, given this team does not. Yep, we do. So maybe we do not take tight end at all. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a believer in Gerald Everett. Don't think he's a player that like you need to reach on. But in the same vein as Tank Bigsby, a league-winning handcuff is Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford is absolutely worth this 154 ADP. We reached on him 6 spots, actually. His ADP is only 160 right now. But we remembered that the last time around, the running back position was starting to dry up, and he is a absolute league winner. Absolutely. If Nick Chubb goes down. Even if he doesn't, there's a legit possibility that Jerome Ford could take on the Kareem Hunt role. He could actually have a lot of touches in this offense. But even if he doesn't, we've seen the backup running back in Cleveland have amazing games when they fill in for Nick Chubb. Like, just look at Dearness Johnson. Perfect example. Oh, right. It was 2021 when he had those really good games. Oh, we are on the clock. We are on the clock here. Cannot ignore what's going on. We could grab DJ Chark. That correlates with our Jonathan Mingo selection. That opens the door for Bryce Young coming back around. That's very tempting. And I'm going to do it. I love that scenario quite a bit. I am a believer in the Panthers this year. I think they could absolutely win their division, absolutely be a playoff team. And their receiving core is completely up for grabs. They have a Heisman winner at quarterback. You're telling me they're not going to figure it out eventually? Like, yeah, I'd much rather bet on the Panthers than bet against the Panthers this season. So that's the stack we're going to look for with our next pick. We're going to look for Bryce Young, and we'll pair him up with Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark. That could pay some big dividends, especially if Adam Thielen at the age of 33 goes down with injury. So I like that combo quite a bit. But Angus, hey, if Stafford stays healthy, you also love Higbee. Yeah, even if he doesn't, I think Stetson Bennett can get him the ball pretty well. I think you should not bet against Sean McVay. He's a guy I absolutely believe in. An offensive game plan I think could really work out. And you know the Rams, after last year's debacle, have a strong chip on their shoulder. They want to bounce back. It's just a matter of, will those rookies on defense do enough to keep them competitive, keep them viable? But at the very least, the offense is going to put up some points. If Stafford can't stay healthy, then Higbee, Van Jefferson, definitely league winners at their ADP. Maybe Van Jefferson a little bit less so, given he is now creeping in to the 12th round. But Nakua is for real in your opinion, Fantasy Dog? I'll be honest with you, I haven't really looked into Nakua a ton. I know they didn't take him like early. I want to say it was like a round selection. As a KK. We're looking at college stats for Puka Nakua. Okay, so he played for BYU. He's 6'1", 210, according to SportsReference.com. So yeah, not bad. He's entering the NFL as a senior, so that may explain some of his draft capital. But he played for Washington originally, then moved on to BYU. Okay, so that's an upgrade in my opinion. That's definitely a good sign. But 6 touchdowns last year. Whoa, 10 touchdowns, 5 of them rushing touchdowns. I did not see these rushing stats. Those are very interesting. That could be very useful, especially given I don't think Sean McVay trusts Cam Akers at all. I think if he could move off of Cam Akers today, he would. So I'm not saying he's going to become the running back, but if they want to give him some rush attempts, that's definitely something they would consider. Bryce Young goes off at 166. Unfortunately, we will not be getting this stack, but it's not the end of the world. You're telling me his highlight reel is worth watching? I will check it out. I won't be watching it here on the live stream because I'll get flagged for copyright, but I will definitely check that out on my own accord. Definitely something worth doing for sure. What was I looking at? Okay, yeah. Nakua. Let me look at this game log. I like to take a look at the game log a little bit more specifically. Whew. And there's one game here that's definitely something good to see. I want at least like one amazing game from a college player in order to like fully buy in. You know, because like sometimes their system like doesn't really use them a ton, or their like competition isn't amazing. But if they have one game where they're fucking awesome and really like carry their team to a victory, that's the shit I'm looking for. And this week 7 game against Boise State is definitely something to pay attention to. 14 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's legit. So you're telling me he's very fast and elusive. Let's take a look at his player profile page. I want to know more about Puka Nacua. Now that you mention him, maybe I need to move off of Van Jefferson dramatically. But 6'2", so it listed even taller. 4.62. I can't say that's very fast and elusive. 25th percentile. I'm sure the tape looks good, but remember, he's playing at BYU. BYU is not like BYU made Zach Wilson look good. That like a little bit deceiving. So remember, it's just the highlight reel specifically that can also skew what you are looking at. But look, those stats speak for themselves. That game against Boise State where he caught 14 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 8 for 141 and a touchdown against Arkansas week 4. Yeah, he can be legit. So I will take a look at his highlight reel and definitely start to open my mind to him being a more valuable player. But I can't say I've been like really sold on him. And I'll be honest with you, I can't say this 4.62 40 is like super exciting. But no, I believe you that there's definitely something worth considering with Puka. Definitely some interesting stats. But I'll need to take a look at that highlight reel for sure. But no, thanks for the the insights. I need to at least move off of Van Jefferson, and that's a good reason to do so for sure. Definitely something to consider. But Angus, when Stafford went down, Higbee blocked a lot more is the thing. But with Stafford, he ran way more routes. Yeah, their offense was just not something to believe in and buy into. I think when Stafford was out of the lineup, it's really when you're drafting any Ram that isn't Cooper Kupp, I think you are inherently making the bet that Stafford stays healthy. That's the key. But maybe Stetson Bennett can really get things going. Maybe Bennett will be the answer. But we mentioned it when we took George Kittle. The Brock Purdy value is beautiful. Love this extremely cheap price on Brock Purdy. And I'm going to believe John Lynch when he says it. It's John Lynch, right? Now, his last name is definitely Lynch, but I might sound really stupid because his name might not be. No, it's John Lynch. I'm second guessing myself, but Lynch, the GM, has been talking vehemently, strongly that Purdy's going to have the job. Purdy's earned the job, and definitely a player that has earned that right. Like I really think he is going to be the starter. I think all the hype on Trey Lance is so that they can trade him and get back some of the value that they spent in order to bring him in to the team. But we are on the clock. Can't get too caught up here. We have 7 receivers. We need a tight end. There's a chance that Gesicki is really good, but can't say it like really fucking matters. Not super sold on it. We hammered Carolina. I'm just going to go with more Carolina Panthers because at the end of the day, it's the Frank Reich offense. We've seen Mo Alley Cox put up a lot of fantasy points, getting a ton of red zone usage. I don't see that going away. And while Hayden Hurst has not really done shit from a fantasy perspective, at the end of the day, he was drafted in the first round. He was signed by the Panthers, and he's one of their only receiving weapons. Like, let's go to Over the Cap and show you just how slim the Carolina Panthers roster really is. Where are they? Okay, here they are. Contracts, baby. This is a very useful website to understand what the depth chart is actually going to look like. Over the Cap, I highly recommend use when you're trying to plan out some of your picks, because look at these contracts from a pass catching standpoint. It's Thielen, number one, at about $8.3 million per season. Then it's Hayden Hurst at 7.2 for a tight end. That's not crazy. Tight ends usually get paid a little bit more, even if they're just blockers. That's a solid contract, though. But a 3-year deal. Very legit investment in Hayden Hurst. He is not going away on this team. Then it's DJ Chark at $5 million, followed by Ian Thomas, another tight end. Then we're looking at Jonathan Mingo on a rookie contract. Definitely not players that you believe in. Laviska Shenault, Terrace Marshall, also some rookies that haven't really proven anything either. So especially the fact that Frank Reich is the coach, I think you can make the bet that they're going to target the tight end in the red zone. That would be Hayden Hurst. And at round 16, this shit doesn't matter. Like, whoever you want in this range, even if they're outside the top 250 on the ADP, if you want that player, fucking take him. Like, don't get sniped. Just have some conviction, you know? Like, pick some guys, take some shots, and we need tight end. I'm going with Hayden Hurst. We've made some investments in the Panthers offense, and might as well triple down with tight end. But Canelo Sweets, it's 2 a.m. Thank you for giving me some content. You're welcome, my friend. Happy to be here. Normally I do it around 4:20, but I was a little busy today and did not want to get through Monday without a mock draft. So we are drafting at least twice a week. I think once it hits July, I'm going to ramp up to at least 3, if not 4 of these mock drafts a week, and definitely start to ramp up some of the content here on the channel. I know it's been a little bit dry in terms of not just these live streams, like all the other content that I normally am giving you, but yeah, happy to provide some content late at night. But Higbee did have a historic tight end run. Yeah, there was the 5-6 week stretch where he was Tyler Higbeast. That could absolutely happen again. It's not like the Rams have any real like trustworthy weapons. Like, it's just him and Van Jefferson and the rookie Nakua, and maybe Tutu Atwell somehow pulls his head out of his ass. But yeah, very, very strong chance that Higbee at least returns the value. I think worst case scenario, you're drafting Tyler Higbee in round 13 at his floor. There's no way he doesn't give you this value unless he gets hurt. And that's something you can say about literally every single player in the NFL. It can't be the only reason to deter you from a player. So yeah, Higbee, super, super valuable. But your first Tommy Tremble sighting this year. Thank you. Did we mention Tommy Tremble? Yo, yeah, right. On the Over the Cap page. Yeah. Tremble actually caught some touchdowns last year. Tremble could actually be the vulture for any of these Carolina pass catchers. But part of me feels like it's possible that Shenault might rear his head late in the year, especially if like Thielen goes down. It's possible that Shenault comes back into play. I feel like no matter what, though, Bryce Young is going to make this work. Like, one of these players are going to be really, really good because Bryce Young is that man. Bryce Young, early in his career, is going to be really good. Once he starts to get hurt, take a pounding, I don't think his frame is going to pay off. I think like he's not a guy I expect to have a 10-year career. But he won the Heisman 2 years ago, and I'm a believer in Bryce Young very strongly. So here we are in round 17, the last 2 picks of this draft. We need another running back, and I kind of like Pierre Strong a little bit. I also kind of like Zamir White a lot, but a player who's getting rave reviews is Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell has had an excellent OTAs so far, and I have been taking him a lot in rounds 17, 18, around pick 200. I think he's a player whose ADP is going to quickly rise if the hype on him continues out of the Giants camp, especially if Saquon does hold out. Apparently Campbell was getting some touches in the at the running back position, and he's going to be a gadget player used all over the field. I think Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator, the play caller, head coach for the Giants. Definitely a player you want to believe in. He made Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James valuable last season. So Paris Campbell was brought in free agency for a reason, drafted in the second round by the Colts a few years ago. And he's definitely a guy I want to see work out. Paris Campbell as my wide receiver 8, I think is super, super strong value in round 17. But we're either going with our 6th running back. I can't say it's like completely necessary. Or we're grabbing a 3rd quarterback, maybe a 3rd tight end. We definitely don't need a 3rd tight end. So it's either running back or quarterback with this final pick. I don't think I need quarterback. I'm going to go with running back. Gonna go running back here. And you know what news is actually like really under the radar? It's the fact that Josh Jacobs has not reported to mandatory minicamp. All the talk is on Stephon Diggs because the media doesn't want to talk about DeMar Hamlin in Buffalo. They want to distract you. But that, I think, is a complete smokescreen. The player who I'm worried about that's not showing up to camp is Josh Jacobs, who does not want to play on the franchise tag for the Raiders if he sees another 400 touches this season. So if that happens, he's a player I could absolutely see not playing, like pulling a Le'Veon Bell and saying like, nah, I'm not going to risk getting hurt for this team. I'll just sit out. Maybe you guys cut me. Maybe I get a Dalvin Cook treatment here. But the Josh Jacobs situation, I think, could be a massive red flag. And as our 18th round pick, a flyer, Zamir White is a player you need to remember. You cannot forget about Zamir White. And while you can, maybe he's going to stay here at the 18th round all offseason. But I think especially as we creep into August, if the contract has not been signed, if the situation is very dicey with Josh Jacobs, Zamir White's going to get a ton of training camp hype. He's a Georgia running back that's really good. I had him as my number 5, if not number 4 running back prospect as a, as a rookie entering the draft. Zamir White's really talented, and every running back that's touched Georgia, every running back that's come out of Georgia is really effective, really good in the NFL. He was drafted in the 4th round. He kind of has small hands. He's not much of a pass catcher at all. So in full PPR formats, I do not think Zamir White's going to be amazing. But from an insurance policy, Josh Jacobs could absolutely miss time. Even if he doesn't hold out, Jacobs is probably a player you're worried about in terms of touches because he had, I want to be exact with this number, but I want to say 398 touches last year. No, 393. He led the entire NFL at the running back position in total touches. That's rush attempts and receptions combined. 340 carries is a lot, and 53 receptions puts him at 393 on the season. While he is only 25 this year, that's not like a huge red flag. 400 touches is. And he didn't report to camp, so that situation could definitely go haywire. Everyone's talking about that Jimmy Garoppolo situation. That's why they're not drafting Devontae Adams, but I think the player that's more concerning, in my opinion, would be Josh Jacobs at this point in time. So, Fantasy Talk, gotta consider these league-winning handcuffs super late, and especially if you already don't believe in Jacobs too much, if you haven't been drafting him, why not bet against him, take his handcuff, Zamir White, at the end of the draft. So let's recap this team real quick. Let's tell you how it went and take a look at our final roster. We are making the bet that Trevor Lawrence is a league-winning quarterback and that the Jaguars are going to win at least 13 games this season. And because of that luxury, we reach on him a little bit, but we didn't have to take quarterback again until Brock Purdy in round 16, 15, wherever we got him. super, super late. So I trust this quarterback combo. I think Purdy, once it's figured out who's the starter, it's going to be him. He's going to skyrocket, vault up this draft board really, really quickly. But at running back, we went with Jonathan Taylor. We are trusting him. But because I don't fully believe it, I also have two solid top 25 backups. I got Dave Montgomery, James Conner. Remember, this is a 12-team league. So if you have your RB2 and RB3 as players you personally believe are top 25 options, you have very, very good contributors at that position. These three can get it done. So we went with home run hits in terms of handcuffs that can really pop. Bigsby's going to have a weekly role in that offense. It's going to be more of a committee than they're letting on. I think Etienne is a player that does concern me in round 3. I'd much rather get him a late round 4. But Bigsby could absolutely be this year's Kareem Hunt. And even if Etienne doesn't go down, Bigsby could have a very strong role in that offense. But again, could be top 15 if Etienne does go down. Same for Jerome Ford. Could be top 10, I think. What's the coach's name? The coach's name eludes me. But Stefanski. The Kevin Stefanski rushing game is fucking amazing. His run scheme really solid. Ever since he's been back in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, he's been amazing as a play caller. Dearness Johnson, who we briefly touched upon, is the upside that we're hoping for with Jerome Ford. Could put up 25 fantasy points in a game if Nick Chubb ever went down. But then Zamir White in the same context, I don't see him as a league winner. Like, if he does get the job, I think he'd be like RB like 18 at best. But it's round 18. If that's what you actually get for like 5 weeks of the season, hell yeah, man. Zamir White is going to give you a ton of value, a ton of league winning potential as your RB6. So that's a good core. I'm very excited about that. Honestly, I'm starting to like Jonathan Taylor round 2 now that I see it a little bit more. But at wide receiver, we got CeeDee Lamb in round 1, Amari Cooper in round 3. We reached a little bit on Christian Kirk, but he was not going to come back to us with our next pick. And ultimately, he's a 4th rounder. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with Christian Kirk in round 4. But Lazard, we took at 106. Darnell Mooney, we got at 111. A player who you might question me on, but I think is worth reaching on a little bit. I think he's just as valuable as Courtland Sutton, who's going inside the top 100. But Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark, that's a good combo. We did not get the handcuff, the stack with Bryce Young, but it's not that big of a deal. We also got Paris Campbell as a little luxury pick in round 17. But tight end, we have our tight end number 2 this season. I love George Kittle, firmly believe in his talent. And then Hayden Hurst, just another bet on that Carolina offense. If it does work out, then all of these Panthers are definitely worth a much higher pick than their ADP would suggest. They're definitely going to return the value that you need to invest in order to take them. So that's my team. I feel pretty good about it. And let me know what you think in the comment section. But that's it for this draft. Fantasy Dog, 13 games, you're the man. #believe. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Very, very excited. Thanks for joining me, all of you in the chat during this video. And I think I'm going to do a few more of these late night live streams. I think they're also, I'm on the West Coast. So if I'm drafting hypothetically with anybody on the East Coast, I have that advantage. They are more sleep deprived than I am. So I'm going to use it to my benefit and, do what I want. But just a reminder, if you have never drafted on Underdog here and you're interested in signing up, it's a great place to practice, not a huge commitment. While you do have to put in real money, it's best ball. There is no time commitment during the regular season. You never have to set an actual lineup. It automatically plugs in those players. So very, very nice. It makes it easier to gamble all your money away and do that. But, they make their money. They're fine. I like to do these $3 drafts, though, because it's not, like, crazy, and you have a much higher chance of making some money as opposed to the tournaments, which I do partake in, but your chances in the tournaments are literally, like, minuscule. very, very much less than 1%. At least in these 12-team private drafts, your odds start off at 8%. If you draft smartly, they quickly rise. And hopefully these live streams and all the content over the course of the offseason is going to help you get prepared for your draft and make some money here on Underdog. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you all in the comment section for watching it, and everybody who's watching the recording later on YouTube. But my name's Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.